Okay. So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us at the Transit Talk. Still talking about your utopia, your utopia. This is my copy. This is by Bora Chung and translated by Anton Hor. As you probably know, Curse Bunny is Transit Bookstore's all-time best-selling book. So
Whoa.
yeah, still until now, like it
Wow.
doesn't last long in our shelf,
Yeah.
basically. It's
Wow. That's
yeah,
great.
it's crazy. Yeah, and but I think we're I don't know why other bookstore didn't pick up Curse Bunny
Mm.
since the beginning, but it was very compelling because it was so different, right? Probably that's
Mm.
why.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, last week we talked with Anton and Bora about your Utopia, and
Mm.
right now I'm with Taylor. Taylor is the publisher of this book, and also Curse Bunny is from Honford Star, and he's there. And Anton, probably you want to introduce yourself. What's your role at Honford Star? What do you do daily?
Mm. Yeah, so at Honford Star, it's there's two of us who run the company, Anthony and I, and we are the co-publishers, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I we do all the normal stuff that you do at a publishing company, I guess. Like, we acquire the books and then, deal with the agents and deal with the authors sometimes, and then find the translator if there's a translator not attached. And then once we get the translation in, then we edit it, and then we will go back to the translator and work with them on the edits. And while all this is going on, we will hire like a book designer or book cover artist to create the book covers. And then after it's been released, we have a distributor that we deal with and a sales team that goes to bookstores in the UK. They have a really great connection with a lot of booksellers, and so that all works out really well. And we're their only fiction publisher. They work with a lot of nonfiction publishers, so kind of feels like we get some good treatment from our sales team. And we really thrive in like indie bookstores, I feel like. Kind of like Transit. That's been our real like strong partners, I guess, because a lot of the big publishers or a lot of the big bookstores will work with big publishers because they can work on like huge scales. But with small publishers and small or like indie bookstores, like there's been like a nice connection for us, because they kind of appreciate like our book quality and our point of view and our sensibilities a little more. Yeah, and so like our daily work is just basically a lot of emailing and like ushering the books from manuscript form into book form. Yeah.
Is there a difference of job for between you and Anthony?
Um, Not necessarily,
Mhm.
But Anthony does a lot more of the mm, finances because he's a British citizen and I am not. And so like he can deal with the taxes and that kind of thing in a way I can't. And I'm more of like a front facing person. Like that's why I'm doing this, and
The event, yeah. Mhm.
is not really interested in doing it. So like we kind of divided up that way. However, like if I didn't do this, like Anthony could step in and like if Anthony can't do something, I can email somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. So, were you friends with Anthony? Because I told you, right? So at
Hmm.
Transit, it's me and my business partner Indra,
Hmm.
and we've been friends since we were 11.
Hmm. Wow.
That's why it was pretty easy for us to build a business together. Um, yeah, it is. How is that with you and Anthony? How did it start? I guess.
Anthony and I met when in Korea, actually, when we were both teaching English at the same academy. And so we started almost at the same time and then spent a year like as coworkers. And in that year, we spent a lot of time together, just like partying and traveling and, you know, doing things that young people do. And then eventually he moved back to the UK and got a job there. And I moved, and then I stayed here in Korea, and we both got married, and then, both started families. And it was on my honeymoon actually that me and my wife went to the UK and we visited him and his wife. And like, we were just at a bar together or a pub, I suppose, because of the UK. And complaining about our jobs and how we didn't like it and how we wish somebody would start a publishing company and give us a job. And then Anthony actually just did it. Like he started it and then like yeah, he set up like the paperwork and the name and stuff. And then like a month into that process, he contacted me and asked if I wanted to be a part of it. Yeah, and that was 2015, I guess. Wow. It's almost been 10 years.
10 years almost.
Almost. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Who
And
who chose the name and why Honford Star?
Anthony chose the name
Uh-huh.
before I was on board. It's a old English like banner, like a sigil or something. Um, yeah, I've Googled it a few times, but I can't really tell you what it is.
What's the bird though?
The bird is a three-legged crow.
Ah, okay.
You can't
Yeah,
always see it on the
yeah,
foil.
not
Yeah.
really. Yeah, not really.
Let me see if I have one with a good, maybe, maybe you can see the three legs.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Or if you go to our Facebook page or our Twitter
Mm.
account or something, or Instagram, if you look at the logo,
Mm.
you'll see the three legs.
Three legs. Ah, okay.
Because it's a common mythological animal in all of East Asia, or in at least Japan, Korea, and China.
Right.
So we, yeah, we decided like our logo should be East Asian related.
Mm.
We
Mm.
work like in the translation field here.
Mm.
And that was the one we settled on. And then
Mm.
we found a Korean artist to like design the logo for us.
Right. Did you like when you were in Korea,
Hmm.
when you met Anthony, did you both read Koreans?
Read Korean.
Uh-huh.
No, not at that time.
Ah, okay.
Um, we both have taken classes and such since then.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but
Mm.
not when, yeah.
So, but then why did you choose to, because you focus on East Asian books, right?
Hmm. Right.
Why did you choose that?
The first idea was just translated literature.
Okay.
Um, Neither of us wanted to do just non-translated literature, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, editing books and stuff, that was a whole different skill set than what we had. but with translation, it was a lot of skills that we had to learn, a lot of skills we had to learn. But the books were already written in their final form, I guess. And so we just needed to translate them. We didn't have to worry about like editing the actual story or anything. And we were more interested. And so, yeah, so first we were going to do like the whole world, but then it just felt like too much to balance. Like, are we doing too many European languages? Are we doing too many Asian countries? Are we not hitting this region or not hitting that region? And so because we both lived in East Asia and I still live there, like we just chose like to focus on this area that we already knew. Yeah.
I never thought of it that way actually, but that's a really good point that when it's a translation work, then the work is there.
Right.
And yeah, in a way, there's not a lot of work to it. But of course, there's a lot of work to it. But then you
As
don't
editors, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
there's less
But you
work.
don't actually have to argue with the author, for example, like
Right.
make this part makes more sense or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Oh, I never thought of it. Oh, that's actually a very good insight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then you decided to do East Asian books only.
Yeah.
But then at the start you focus on classics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did four classics at the beginning. Here's the fourth one we did, Underground Village. This was translated by Anton. And we chose classics because several reasons. They were out of copyright, and so we didn't have any money when we started. So like we could just pick up a book and start translating it without worrying about author advances and agents and that type of thing. And so that was very useful because it let us just work on some books while we were learning about the business without um, having to deal with an agent or anything. And you like when we were first starting and we hadn't even done a book, I mean, I don't think agents would have even returned our calls or anything. So like starting on like out of print ones was kind of good. Yeah, and there were some authors that we were interested in. Like, I mean, art that was like the business side of it. And then like artistically though, there was a bunch of authors that we did like that hadn't been brought into English or had never been collected into English. And so that was one of our another like very beneficial thing about doing classics.
So but then at that time you read Korean already.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe not like read classic literature.
Okay.
Well, Um, but and back then I was actually better at Korean than I am now because I have a daughter and we only speak English at home now. And
Um,
so my Korean's gone way down because I never speak Korean at home anymore. Yeah. And um yeah. And so that's where we started on the classics, I guess.
right. Yeah. And then what make you basically you make some money and then jump into modern literature or more
Yeah.
contemporary literature? Is that what
Basically,
happened?
yeah, like we started making some money off the books and then yeah, and then we got one of our translators pitched us Hunter School. It's by a Taiwanese Aboriginal author
Mhm,
named Sakinu Aranglong.
mhm,
And the translator had worked with us and he was in contact with the author, and so he pitched this book to us. And so that was our first of our modern, yeah. And then so that was about 2019. And
But
then
do you actually read any other language than Korean or
no,
no? Okay.
no. So a lot of our choices are based on like people we trust, like
Right.
translators,
Yeah.
like or just working with agents,
Right.
and some or reading summaries and
Yeah.
reading samples.
Yeah. But did you have a hunch or did you know that Korean literature would like boom like this?
Um, yeah, no, not really.
Yeah.
We've kind of it's been good for us, the increase in Korean literature. Um, but we didn't have any idea.
Yeah. Because for example in Indonesia, right? Like I
Mm,
kept telling my friends from the West,
mm,
the Europeans, the Americans, that we actually had the K fever before the Bieber fever,
yeah.
right? So so for us,
Mhm.
like Korean shows,
Yeah.
like even the reality shows are very
Yeah.
popular here, right?
Yeah.
But then I never thought that Korean literature would be that big as well, or would
Mm,
become that big, or how the K-pop artists become so influential in the literary world. I never imagined that it could
yeah.
evolve to something like this.
Yeah, yeah. Korean is getting really big. Japanese is huge
Yeah,
in
Japanese
the
is like
translated world.
I don't understand anymore. It's crazy. It's
So big.
yeah.
In the UK, Japanese literature accounts for like 1/4 of all translated literature,
Right. Yeah.
which is insane if you consider like they're so close to France,
Mm,
Germany. There's all of Latin America speaking Spanish and
yeah.
producing great literature.
Yeah.
But Japanese literature is just so popular.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hmm. That's very interesting. Like yeah, I think the first time also like um when I posted Curse Bunny, um it was in the beginning, kind of like a kickoff to the
Mm, mm,
K lit fever.
right.
So yeah, and yeah, I never thought like I thought we had to kind of like um basically kind of tag along into whatever like songs or the idols that are um yeah, that are popular, but then I feel like the K-lit can stand on its own and
Mm.
just become as viral as the songs and the series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it helps that that one member of BTS is always
Yeah.
being photographed
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
with
yeah. Yeah. Are you a BTS fan? Or are you
I-
obliged to say that you're a BTS
yeah. Yeah, I don't want Army coming after
fan?
me.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I don't have any strong opinions on BTS either way.
Right.
But they have been good for spreading Korean literature.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, wow. So, okay. So, you talk a bit about the funding. So
Hmm.
you sold your first book and then you started getting money and then
Yep.
and then it just rolls on like that. That's what happened or
Yep. I mean, pretty much. And then we also get like there's grant
mm,
organizations in different countries,
mhm.
like the literature or the Korean Literature Translation Institute, LTI Korea,
Yeah.
and then Books for Taiwan is the Taiwanese
Mm,
one. And there's nothing really for Japan,
mm,
or there is in Japan and in China, but they're less. important to us, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, but so we get a lot of help from government organizations, and
Mhm.
then we put basically all of the money we earned back into the next books.
Mm,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, you're enjoying it so far? Almost 10 years?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very, very much so. It's gratifying. It's a good
Mm,
um, way to, I don't know, like fulfill like creative energy. Even though I'm not actually doing any of the translating or the designing or the artwork, there is a like a creative fulfillment
mm,
about like deciding like what type of cover, like
mm,
which artist will be good for this cover, and
mm,
like bringing it from, you know, the Word document into a physical form.
right. Yeah. Mm, right. So like for example, when Curse Bunny was nominated in so
Hmm,
many awards, right?
that was really big.
Um, yeah,
That was big for us. Yeah.
yeah. So, did that, I don't know, did it make it easier for you to get grants or?
Um, I don't know about
Uh-huh.
grants necessarily, but it did put us in good graces with LTI Korea, the
Mm,
grant organization here.
mm-hmm,
Um, However, the Booker nomination really like supercharged the sales of
mm,
Chris Bunny.
mm-hmm,
And so it was already selling quite
mm,
nicely
yeah,
before, and then after it really just started to take off.
yeah.
Um, and then like it helped, we sold the American rights,
Mm,
and we yeah, and then as you know, we just recently published her next book,
yeah.
along with the American publisher and the Australian publisher at the
Mhm.
same time.
And also the Indian one, right?
The Indian one is, yeah, I think they're not quite out yet, but they're
Oh,
either just came out or are almost out. They're
okay.
because of some rights issues, they were a
Mm,
little delayed, but
mm,
they should be coming out very soon.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing, really. Like, I remember, I think I emailed you, I think, in 2022, right, like right after we had an event with Anton and Bora, and then
Mm,
not long after, there's the Booker announcement, right?
yeah,
And then the stock was just out, and then
yeah.
I asked you when's the stock coming out, and then you said, oh yeah, there will be stock coming soon. And then um I see it in the distributor
Mm,
that database basically.
yeah,
It just basically it's selling like however
yeah,
many you put in, it's just selling. It's
yeah.
insane.
It's
Yeah.
been very steady for us, even
Yeah.
after a couple years.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we never plan our budgets. All our budgets are planned around Chris Bunny stop selling, basically.
Right.
Like every year we're like, all right, this year we're not touching that Chris Bunny money. And then it just keeps on selling. Yeah,
uh, right. Yeah.
it's been really well. It's been
Yeah.
doing really well. Yeah.
Another book that's been popular too at Transit
Mm.
is actually To the Warm Horizon.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah,
Yeah, this one.
yeah, that one. Yeah.
This, as you know, is a story about a pandemic
Hmm.
that wipes out humanity. And it was
Yeah.
originally released in April of 2020.
Ah, I didn't know that.
So just as the whole world was
Yeah,
shutting
yeah,
down
yeah,
because
yeah,
of a
yeah.
pandemic,
Yeah.
we had the like, worst timed release for a pandemic book.
Right.
I'm glad it's doing well though. Is it
Hmm.
people are responding to it?
Yeah, I think also because it's there's not many bookstores that sell queer centric books, and
Hmm.
this is a quite a queer centric book.
Right.
Yeah, and again it's because it's very different as well. So I think like only independent bookstores like us that is brave enough to stock it, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah. But
Nice.
yeah, To the Warm Horizon is one of the titles that we keep restocking. Of course, then after that, Ninth Building, because Jeremy Tiang is
Yep.
popular here, right? So
Oh, really? Even
yeah,
as a translator.
as translator, yeah. Yeah.
Nice. He's
So
great.
yeah, so Ninth Building is
Mm.
another thing, another title that we keep restocking. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Hmm.
Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome. But yeah, it's very interesting that you said that. Yeah, you basically have a circle of people you trust, and then when they said it's a good book, then you should publish it. Then you just publish
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's what happened with Ninth Building too,
Mm,
basically.
mm,
Jeremy just emailed us.
mhm,
Um, we had had a little contact with him before.
mm,
But he emailed us with the full manuscript already finished,
mm,
because he had gotten a grant for it. But
mm,
he, yeah, sent us like, even though it was like an unedited manuscript,
mm.
it felt almost complete. Like
Oh.
it was like don't not even like spelling errors. Um, really like Jeremy does a really great job.
Mm,
And, yeah, that was good. That
mm,
also got nominated for the Booker.
yeah,
Yeah, so that was also really great for us.
yeah. Ah, that's very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I said, last week we had an event with Anton and Bora,
Mm.
and one of the things that basically people ask us,
Mm.
because we ask people, right? Do you have any questions
Yeah, yeah.
for either Anton, Bora, Honford Star team? And their question was, why short stories?
Mm.
Why did you take a chance, I guess, in
Mm.
publishing short stories when when it is very basically known among us readers, especially the English readers, that it's very rare to have first book and second book as short stories. So why short stories?
Yeah, so well, Anton pitched us Curse Bunny back
Mm,
in 2019, I think.
mm,
Or maybe, yeah, 2019.
mm,
And it the first two stories, or the two stories he gave us, are the first two stories from Curse Bunny,
mm,
the head and the embodiment. Um,
mm,
and they're both great. They were both like instant buys. And so they were just so good that we couldn't pass them up, even though they were short stories, basically. And yeah, short stories are much less popular in the English like reading world than the novel is. But that's not the case in Korea and Japan, where
And
short
Indonesia too. Like Indonesian
stories.
author actually published their short stories first, then the
Yeah, yeah.
novel, then something else. Yeah.
And
I
so like
yeah.
yeah, many of the most prominent Korean authors only ever done short stories. Like it's just a very common and accepted like art form here. And so if we limited ourselves to novels, we would be cutting ourselves off from a lot of East Asian literature. And so like one of the reasons that we got into this was we were not very interested in the Korean books being published in English, like as it was back in 2015. Like, you know, 8 to 10 years ago, a lot of the books that did make it into English from Korea were like about how sad life was, and like how depressed they are in cities and stuff, and like, oh, like I lost my mom on the subway type of stories, you know? And we wanted to do like Curse Bunny, like, you know, we want to do like fantasy and sci-fi, and um so doing short stories was part of our like mandate that we gave ourselves. And then also we can take more risks as an indie publisher because we don't have a lot of people to pay, or any people to pay, if things go poorly, right? Like if a larger publisher pays a lot of money for a book and it bombs, like they might have to let somebody go, but we don't have to worry about that because there's nobody to let go. And so that gives us a freedom to not make money, I guess, and take some extra risks. And so like our artistic sensibilities lined up with our financial freedom, I guess. And also we weren't really sure what we were doing either. So like we we had no idea what would sell or not. So we just picked up anything we liked. We still have no idea really what's gonna sell. But we even more so then. Yeah.
So, when Anton pitched the
Hmm.
book, have did you meet Bora? Did you know about Bora at all?
No,
No?
not then. You know, we don't meet most of our authors
Mm,
because um yeah, lots of them live in different countries,
yeah.
and whereas some of them don't speak English. And
Mm,
so, and we're working through agents and translators, and so that a lot of times there's not a reason to know them, or you know, like we never come in contact with them. A lot of them are dead. That's a
mm,
real problem.
mm,
And so we, yeah, so like I had never met Bora before this. I'd never heard of Bora before
mm.
this.
Never read her book either.
Yeah, no,
Mm,
not until Anton pitched it to us.
mm,
And
mm,
it, but it was, yeah, it was kind of like an instant buy for us.
mm,
As soon as we could get the money together, like we bought
mm,
it. I've since met Bora
mm,
a couple times,
mhm,
you know, and then but um you know, and then we email each other a lot
mm.
for coordinating all the things Bora has to do now as a international, like, famous
Yeah,
author.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So again, back to the circle of trusty people.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, so you know, in Japanese we have a translator called Kalau, who has done two books for us in Japanese, and our sensibilities really align. For Chinese, like um anything Jeremy pitches, we try to get, but we don't always successfully get Jeremy's books because other publishers want to work with him too.
Yeah, Jeremy is very famous now.
Yeah, and so we'd like to work with him more, but he's kind of hard to he's kind of hard to get. And then we also take like unsolicited pitches. Like we've had people who've just pitched us ideas, basically. They'll just email us. And for to the Warm Horizon, actually, Sojay messaged us. I had met her at a reading briefly, and then she messaged us. But that that was actually a coincidence because we were already planning on buying the book. And so she pitched us, and then the next day we were like, sure, we were gonna buy it anyways. It was like the easiest pitch a translator has ever had to do in their life, I think. And then yeah, what else has been pitched to us from outside sources? I know we have more. But yeah, so Ninth Building, To the Warm Horizon. We have a couple of Chinese books coming up that were just unsolicited emails. Yeah.
You for Bora's second book, you didn't ask for many novels.
So we actually bought two books at the same time.
Mm,
Your Utopia and a sci-fi novel called Red Sword. And so after the success of Curse Bunny, we went back to the agent and were like, we want to buy a couple novels or buy a couple books. And so when we got the rights to it, Anthony and I had long discussions about if we should go to the novel or the short story next. And we chose short story, and then Algonquin, the American publisher, went with Your Utopia also. And so it made extra sense, I guess, to go with the short stories. And then right now, Anton is working on Bora's first novel to be published into English. Yeah. And then hopefully that'll come out next year.
yeah, yeah. I think they both mentioned it during our event, and it sounds very well, very sci-fi, like
Yeah,
very very out of this world,
yeah,
basically.
it's the metaphor, I believe, or it's an allegory about Korean soldiers or Korean, like just Koreans who were conscripted into the Russian army, I believe, and forced to fight.
Yeah, yeah.
Except in this version, it's
Mm,
humans who are conscripted into an alien army and forced to fight in outer space.
yeah. Yeah, basically reading your Utopia, for example, it
Mm.
it just kind of makes me I don't know, like some of the things that happen here, for example, the elevator or
Mm.
the car,
Mm.
the what was the
From
story?
your
The one with,
utopia.
yeah, from your Utopia with
Yep.
yeah, yeah, the your Utopia one, the
Yep.
car.
Yep.
Um, it's 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 basically it's very out of this world, but also
Mm.
it's very close to humanity, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's her strong suit, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Kind of integrating like real human emotion
yeah.
into the stories about, plant people
Mm,
and people researching immortality and
yeah, yeah.
all of that.
Yeah, and I think yeah, I think it really like I don't think we give you enough credit for being very brave
Ah,
picking these two books, right? The
yeah.
Curse Bunny and Your Utopia, because yeah, it's like I can't really see this two books published by a big publishers. It takes a lot of guts, basically. I think um yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think that's like part of the power of independent
yeah,
publishers
yeah,
is that we take a lot of risks
yeah,
that larger publishers might not, especially in translated fiction.
yeah. Mm,
Seems like a lot of years of all the best translated literature is coming from independent
mm,
publishers.
mm.
not a lot of great. I mean, a lot of good like mysteries and translated adventure novels, like the what was it, the Nordic mysteries, like the Stieg
Oh,
Larsson,
right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
which are all like very fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Terry Page Turner.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but maybe some of the weirder stuff
yeah,
gets covered by the other,
yeah.
more smaller, more nimble publishers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I told you, right? Like during our event with Anton and Bora,
Hmm.
when asked about what book to read next after Utopia from Honford
Hmm.
Star, she said The Tower. We've never actually, I thought when I first stopped Curse Bunny, I thought of stalking the tower, but when I read the
Yeah.
description, it was so weird that I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna sell. So I think
Well,
we end up selling, I think probably a couple because people were asking about it. But yeah, can you
hmm.
please talk about that book? And yeah,
Yeah, let me see. Shoot. I thought I had another one by the same author, but maybe
uh,
I've given away all my copies. Um, oh, no, it's here.
okay. Oh yeah, that's
So,
right. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
series by
yeah,
the author,
yeah.
and the author is Bae Myung-hoon, who is a sci-fi novelist and short stories author. And so this is Tower was his first novel, it was quite a
Mm,
hit in Korea. And it's set in a world, like it's set in an unknown country, but
mm,
it's very obviously Seoul, very obviously
mm,
Korea.
mm,
Like it's a story about like modern life in Korea, and it's set in a 500 story tower. Let me see, 574 story skyscraper. So it's 2 kilometers high, impossibly tall, with 500,000 people living in it. And the tower kind of just represents like urban modernity, like taken to its most extreme form, right? Like, what if Seoul was just one giant building, basically? And then it tells like six semi-interconnected short stories about different aspects of life in the city. Like a security guard um who his bosses by or he there's a guy who was hired to like help put down protests by the city government, and his bosses buy an elephant to help like stop these protests, but the elephant's too nice and peaceful, and too much of a gentle soul to actually do anything useful. And so like all of his stories kind of have a like humorous and satirical bent about organizations that we deal with, like academia, the city government, publishing companies. Publishing companies kind of take a hit in power too. Um, Yeah, so like he kind of gives a satirical take on like all the institutions that we interact with as part of our modern life. And then Launch Something was the second book we did by him. Kind of the same deal, except it's a satirical take on like a space force, a Korean space force that does not yet exist. But it's clearly based on like his life because all Korean men have to do the army for 2 years. And so it's kind of a satirical take on joining the army, and kind of like lightly teasing. And so they're all like very easy to read, very fun, like yeah, just kind of nice stories.
yeah.
And then we're gonna do the third book by him this year with the same cover artist, Cheji Soo. And so we'll have like a proper series going with it.
Yeah, and then you can sell it as a box set.
Right. And so we're hoping that like once we have three of them,
Mm,
people will just want to buy them for the covers.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we've actually started to influence the Korean publishers a little bit
Mhm.
because they contacted us and asked us if they could use our cover for their book.
Oh, so it's
Korean,
actually
yeah,
the other way around.
right. And so hopefully sometime soon we should be seeing
Ah,
this cover in Korean
in
bookstores
Korean. Ah,
on the Korean book, which is pretty fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's when you say the creative achievement part
Yeah.
of it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the artist, Cheji Soo,
Uh-huh.
she did the first book for us, and then she did the Korean cover of this book.
Oh, I
It was a
see.
different, it was a different picture,
Mm,
but in her style. But we wanted a matching cover. So we
mm,
hired her again. So she did two separate covers for the same book.
yeah.
And she's really wonderful. She does a
Mm,
lot of great work.
yeah. Oh, that's so nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very glad to hear that you're um up and running
Yeah.
basically. Yeah. Ah, okay. So since we started with the book recommendation,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, as per usual, I think almost every transit event,
Hmm.
we ask our guests to recommend us books that usually suits our theme, basically. Our current theme is called War and Peace, and War and Peace is because what's going
Yeah.
on in the world right now.
Right.
Yeah, so if you have any book recommendations, and yeah, we'll stock it at the store, and
Yeah.
hopefully more people are interested.
In that case, Fingerbone,
Mhm,
which we did last year, by a Japanese author, Hiroki Takahashi.
mhm,
Um, it's a war novel,
mm.
but it's not like a fighting novel, I guess.
Fine.
Like, I don't think Anthony and I would have been very interested in like a proper fighting war novel. Like in the first three pages, the main character gets injured in a not very heroic way, and then oh, he's part of the Japanese Imperial Army.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is taking place in 1945 or something.
Mm,
And we were sensitive about that because both our wives are Korean. And so
mm.
that would be if we have anything pro Imperial Japan, we'll really get in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, and so like you we it's yeah, so like one of the things we liked about the book is like even though the main character is a member of the Japanese Imperial Army, it's not a pro-war book,
Mm,
and it's not about the heroism or
mm,
anything. Like it's just about a guy who goes off to war and then gets injured, and then he spends most of the book in his like a mobile hospital unit,
mm,
while he kills time and watches everybody die around him,
mm,
basically. And it's not glorious.
mm,
It's not like heroic,
mm,
um, but it is very moving
mm,
and very touching. And the author's writing is very evocative,
mm,
um, very, yeah, very evocative, um,
mm,
very in control,
mm,
and like you're really like feeling the feudal like nature of the war,
mm,
and like as you see it through like the lowest person in the army's eyes, you know?
Mm,
Yeah. So I would recommend Fingerbone.
finger one. Okay.
Real- Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the book recommendation.
Yeah.
Before we end it,
Mm,
I almost forgot. I wanted to ask you, right, about
yeah.
the quality of the
Mm,
book.
yes.
It's amazing. First of all, the
Thank you.
flaps. Of
Yes.
course, like readers are going crazy for the flaps.
Yeah.
But then also every pages, I cannot get over how thick it is.
Yeah.
The yeah.
We put a lot of effort into our book quality.
Mm,
It's something that can help us set us apart
mm,
from other like larger publishers.
mm,
Because we don't have the money for like ad campaign or anything.
mm.
And we don't, we can't get every book into the Guardian or, the New York Times or something.
Yeah.
And because a lot of our sales comes from like independent booksellers,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And so like having like high quality books like is kind of a sign to booksellers like having them, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so like having like our when booksellers think Honford Star, like we hope they think like high quality like material and
Yeah.
design,
Yeah.
everything. And so it took us a few iterations to
Mm,
kind of get everything going. Like
mm,
our first book didn't have any flaps,
mm,
and the paper is more of your normal
mm. Paperback.
paperback
Back.
quality
Uh-huh.
type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but in our second book, we added the French flaps,
Mm-hmm.
which is fun because it adds um adds a lot of space.
Mm,
So we can put all the information on the inside and focus on the outside, just being of design,
mm,
right?
yeah.
Like on the Bae Myung-hoon books, like if we had to
Mm,
use all the text here, like we'd kind of ruin the back of the book a
mm,
lot.
yeah.
Um, and then after that, we moved on to the the end
The
papers.
end paper is
Yeah.
the end paper is also like really high quality.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
we got that from Korean publishers. Basically,
Okay.
every Korean book in Korea will have end papers like this.
Mm,
And so we just stole the idea
mm,
from Korean bookstores, basically.
mm,
And it's not very common in the West.
mm.
And I don't know about like Malaysian books and bookstores, like if, but in the
No.
UK and the US, it's
Yeah. In Indonesia, even the flaps is not common.
yeah, yeah. Flaps I don't think are very common in Korea
Yeah.
either. But
But yeah, end paper is definitely not common.
mm.
Yeah.
And then the internal paper, we have a brand we like that
Mm.
is, we feel is very nice, but also like cost efficient.
Yeah. Right.
And so like it kind of hits the perfect balance between like keeping the books affordable, but
Mm,
also like feeling and being very pleasurable to the
mm,
touch.
yeah.
Um,
And then you
yeah,
actually design a typeset.
yeah, and then
Mm,
Anthony actually does all the typeset. Anthony
mm,
is pretty good at all of the design stuff.
mm,
And so he typeset the book originally. Actually, he basically got it in our first book, like the types,
mm,
and kind of just nailed it the first time.
mm.
Um yeah, and so inside and out, we try to like make every
Yeah.
book kind of work of art.
Yeah. It's like for us, it's really hard to communicate it with readers in Indonesia, right? Like,
Mhm.
because we sell a lot of our books online as well. And
Yeah.
then when people ask, for example, how much is your Utopia? And they're like, oh, why is it so expensive, for example? And
Mm.
but then they don't really understand like the quality of it.
Yeah, that's the
I'm
downside.
yeah, I'm very amazed. So for anyone who's listening to this, the the Honford Start version of your Utopia is really amazing. Like I kept doing this, when I turned the
Mm.
page, because I wasn't sure if it's like one page or two page
Right.
turn. Yeah, so it's the quality of the paper. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, we're really
Yeah,
happy.
yeah, it's very collectible basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
we work with a Korean printing company. We have
Mm,
two contacts here, and so that's something a lot of like UK and US publishers don't like. It takes more time because of the shipping,
mm,
but you can get like really high quality that's kind of harder to find in the United States
mm,
and the UK
yeah, mm,
printing world
mm,
without going to like very high-end specialized
right.
people. Yeah.
Mm, mm, that's nice. Yeah. Well, we're almost
Hmm.
up for the hour. Do you wanna share with us or your mm, upcoming projects?
Yeah, let
What
me see.
what we should read from Honford Start this year?
Yeah, our next book. Let me get our next two books. Next book is called Cannibals
Mm.
by Shinya Tanaka. It's a Japanese like coming of age story that's semi-autobiographical about the author's life growing up kind of in a poor, forgotten area of Japan. Dealing with his terrible father and his girlfriend and just life in the forgotten like section of Japan. That's really quite good. Another the cover artist really just knocked it out of the park. We think just really beautiful.
Yeah, and it's front and back as well. The design.
Yeah,
Yeah.
front, back, it's all connected.
Yeah.
All the text is this way. Um,
Oh,
so it's like very thought out, like the whole design. We were really impressed.
right.
And then after that, we have the new Soul Park Jelly Vendor Massacre, which is like interconnected short stories
Mm.
about a incident at a amusement park in Seoul where everybody turned into gummy jellies. It's a horror book that reads it reads like a horror book, but it also reads like literature. It's just really impressively well done.
Mm.
Yeah, and then we bought the cover directly from the publisher. This was the Korean,
Mm. Ah, okay.
and it was actually the same author who did our logo,
Ah,
same designer who did our logo.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So like we had already worked with her
right,
um when we found out that she had done this cover.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. Both look amazing.
Yeah, both are very fun.
Yeah.
Um New Soul Bark is a lot of fun,
Mm.
especially for being a horror.
For being horror,
The
for
funnest, the
being
funnest horror book. Yeah.
for being horror, it's a fun book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so those are two books coming up.
When are they coming up? Out?
Um, Cannibals is out in May and New Soul Park is out in July.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that should do it.
Hmm.
Thank you so much, Taylor, for taking the
Yeah,
time.
my
It was
pleasure.
fun. I learned
Yeah,
a lot.
thank you.
I learned a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, hopefully you can come to Jakarta and see your little bookshop.
yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank
Um,
you for being a great supporter of us. We really survive on like our like indie bookstores
mm,
being fans of ours. Like
mm.
that's how we've been able to make more books.
Yeah, 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 and I think that just shows, you know, like weird books,
Mm,
and like you need to be brave to publish it, to write it, to publish it, and then to
yeah.
sell it, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I will turn off the recording.